You know, when looking at a woman like this, you can only think, what the hell was God thinking? Why did he create that? Well, I'll answer that question with another question. Why do you think God created alcohol? Today on the Extreme Channel, we're looking at a crazy piece that I'm guessing most of you aren't even familiar with who this is. This is Meg Mucklebones. What an awesome name. Now, she had a very small part in the cult classic movie Legend. Legend was one of my favorite movies growing up. As an adult, it's not quite as good, but there are still some fantastic creatures in there, particularly Meg Mucklebones. Now, I own another Legend piece as well. I actually own this piece from Sideshow Collectibles. It's a 1/4 scale Lord of Darkness. This was the main villain in the movie. And Meg Mucklebones was kind of like the gatekeeper. As the hero, who coincidentally was Tom Cruise trying to save Mia Sara, was trying to break into the Lord of Darkness's palace, Meg Mucklebones was on the outside and she was giant. So this is made by Sideshow Collectibles. This is a half-scale bust. So supposedly, her head would be twice the size of this. Although in the movie, as I said, she was huge. So we'll talk more about that when we get to design. But I didn't have any plans on getting this piece. However, the Lord of Darkness was sitting by himself, and I saw this for a fantastic price, and I've wanted it for a long time. Like I said, I'd rather have a life-size one, as that's kind of what I collect, but this is going in my newly refashioned horror display, and it's very close to the Prime One Studios half-scale Pennywise bust. So I thought next to some other half-scale busts, as well as next to Lord of Darkness, she would look good. If you want to see what that looks like, make sure to check out the Extreme Channel Instagram, Facebook, and now TikTok. All the links for those are in the description below. Now, as you can imagine, this is not going to be a very long review because, frankly, there's not a ton going on. But let's start with the traditional category of concept. Now, when you talk about a bust, concept kind of falls on the wayside, but there's a few things we can look at. Starting with the pedestal base that it's on. You know, nowadays, as this is a much older piece, the bases are usually part of the bust, whether it's the torso or the arms. That's not the case here, but it brings a certain classy museum style to this piece. And then as you slowly move up, you see the strands of her hair. She is fully sculpted, so it's not actual real hair. It's probably resin or PVC. You see kind of the top of her torso, the bottom of her neck, and her head is slightly twisted, which is kind of the look she gave Tom Cruise right before she was about to try and eat him. Yes, she tried to eat Tom Cruise because he was just a plump little sexy boy. And she has that great menacing look on her face. Now, what's really interesting is, in the scene she was in, it was very dark, so you really couldn't tell these vibrant colors, and I quite like it. There's a lot of goblins in this movie, so you really get that feel she's kind of a goblin queen or something of that nature. She had a huge hump on her back, which you can see a little bit as well. So I like it. I like it quite well. It really encompasses that character. I wouldn't mind a full 1/4 scale. And again, like I said, I would prefer a life-size bust, but I like what this does. I think it's a cool little representation of Meg Mucklebones and something else from that movie, because frankly, there's not a lot of display pieces you can buy. I think there's only 2 other ones, and they're actually of the Lord of Darkness I know of, or 3, I take that back. There's also a half-scale or legendary scale of the Lord of Darkness himself. Now, what I really want is a life-size Lord of Darkness. If anyone's selling that for a decent price, like under $2,000, go ahead and make sure you get a hold of me, because I would buy that off you in a second for $2,000. But I give this concept a 4 out of 5. It's cool. The only thing I would like to see different is more of the pedestal actually part of the character. For design, really the only thing we're going to focus on is the unboxing and assembly, because there's not much going on. So here is the unboxing. So it was a tiny, tiny little box, which is nice for a change. Your standard old Sideshow foam. And then on the inside, it was obviously the one layer of Meg. She was all wrapped up. And here she is in her full glory. Now, it did have a pretty cool art box. And not only different pictures of the statue on different sides of the boxes, but on the back, it had a pretty large narrative. In his quest to recover the last unicorn from the Lord of Darkness and rescue Princess Lily, young Jack must travel a perilous course riddled with unexpected obstacles. Reaching the swamp, Jack faces Meg Mucklebones, the water hag. So it tells all about her and how they made it. Now for the assembly of her. Done. She's all one piece. All right, so let's measure her really quick. Now the tallest point, I'm guessing about 12 or 13 inches. 13 and a half, a little bit over. And her widest point is probably a little less than 9. And depth is right about the same. Now, I think the only thing we could talk about design is how on the back there is all this blacked out space. Kind of made almost like a honeycomb pattern. So I like that it's not plain, but I wish it would have been more of her actual body because damn, she is sexy. So design, a 4 out of 5, I guess. There's not a lot they can do, but they did what they could with what they had. So now we'll look at her, and again, this is probably going to be the shortest paint and sculpt you've ever seen. But starting at the base, it has a nice matte finish. Well, it's not really a sculpt, it's more of a design thing, but the different layers of rings are different sizes. And then again, that honeycomb pattern almost seems like it's a different matte finish. It's not as reflective. Let's look at her skin. I love what they did. Not only the green color, which again, you can't really tell how screen accurate it is because it was so dark, but it looks great. There's different shades of green. I like how her skin has both a smooth and a rough texture at the same time. Gives her the impression that she's very slimy, at this very old, disgusting goblin. One interesting thing she has on the back, almost like worms coming out of her neck. And this just makes her more creepy. They have a little bit of a plastic look to them, and they're really on the back, so you're not going to see them much, but it's a great addition, and I like the sculpt of them. They look like real worms. Let's look at her hair as well. So her hair is flowing down. Like I said, it is totally sculpted. It looks like it's wet, and she did live kind of in this swamp. That's where she arose out of, so that makes sense. So I think they did a nice job there, especially with the strands coming down. Now, on her portrait, this is just sadistic and gross. It's a mix between an old witch, an old woman, a goblin, and it just looks fantastic. She is so creepy. I like how her eyes are looking in the way that her head is tilted, her gigantic nose. She has some teeth that I think the teeth could have been done a little bit better. They're almost too skinny, but they're jutted out everywhere. These gigantic ears are complemented by her huge, bulky chin, and she has these striations in her cheeks, in her forehead. It looks fantastic. I really like the reflectiveness of the skin. It really makes this piece pop. So we're going to kind of combine the paint and sculpt scores, but honestly, I think they're both a 4 out of 5. This is an excellent piece for what it is. I am very impressed. Now, typically we talk about value when we buy a brand new piece. This clearly wasn't brand new. I think I got it for like $400 shipped, which is pretty close to the original retail price. A good deal on her is between $350 and $500 shipped nowadays. They made 200 of her, and I have seen them sell as high as $600 or $700, but if you're patient, because like I said, there's only 200 of her, and if you're a big fan of the Legend movie, there's not a lot of characters you can buy. To my knowledge, other than the Lord of Darkness, she's the only one. Now, does this have the X factor? Is it a 5 out of 5 statue? No, it's not. I think if this was a life-size bust, it has the potential to be, despite the fact she's such a secondary character. However, I love everything about it. I think it's going to look fantastic. I can't wait to put her next to Lord of Darkness. So I give her a 4 out of 5 as an overall score. I think she's great for what she is. Perfect addition to a horror line. Now, do me a favor on your way out. Not only drop me a like, but hit that picture of me to subscribe to the channel if you haven't, because cool crap like this comes in all the time. But more importantly, drop me a comment. Does she remind you of your Coyote Ugly one-night stand? She does. And if you're watching, you're a little bit better than her.